Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a real legend. We're talking about sour diesel. I mean, a strain that's just everywhere, so iconic. High Times magazine even ranked it, what, #3 of all time back in 2018?
Number three. But the thing is, with legends like that, the real origin story,
Mm-hmm.
it often gets cleaned up, sanitized.
Right.
And that's what we're digging into today. If you actually look at the notes, the source material, the start of sour diesel is, well, it's messy. It's disputed. And it's totally rooted in the East Coast vibe,
Yeah.
especially New York City, early 90s.
Okay.
So our mission here is really to unpack how this series of happy accidents on the East Coast became this global thing. We're following the trail, the key people, the slang, the clones.
All right, let's get into it then. So the story, or at least the story that leads to sour diesel, seems to kick off around 1992. And there's this central figure, Mike the Weasel Klopp. Great nickname.
The Weasel.
Apparently a grower, NYC, Staten Island area, and he was connected deeply into that early chem dog scene.
Exactly. Weasel is like the ground zero courier for the genetics. He really sets the whole thing in motion. He comes back east, right? And he's carrying two absolutely crucial pieces. The Chem Dog 1991 cut, which is legendary now, and this pretty rare Massachusetts Super Skunk, NSS.
Okay.
But he also did a big trip to Amsterdam, comes back loaded with sensei seed packs.
Yeah.
We're talking Northern Lights, #5, Super Skunk, Oasis, even a Hawaiian indica.
Wow. So he wasn't just growing, he was actively building a genetic library right there.
Totally, creating a pool of possibilities.
So with all those genetics floating around, what was the first specific cross that kind of got the name diesel attached to it, even loosely?
Okay, so that's what became known as the original diesel. The sources suggest Weasel's work there involved crossing that Chem Dog 91 with a hybrid he made from the Massachusetts Super Skunk and Northern Lights.
Chem 91 crossed with MSSX Northern Lights. Got it.
Yeah. Although there's another version that says it was just Chem Dog 91 crossed directly with Northern Lights.
Simple.
A bit simpler, yeah. But either way, the key thing, the absolute foundation, is that Chem Dog genetic. No question.
And what's really interesting, like you said about local culture, is that even this original diesel, it wasn't immediately called that. It had street names. Right?
Oh, absolutely. That first really high-quality version, the one we now call original diesel, people were calling it all sorts of things on the street. Daywrecker, headband, underdog.
Huh. Daywrecker, I like that.
Right. And this is important because it shows you, before any official branding or anything, if something was good, it just got absorbed into local slang. Instantly.
If it hit hard, smelled amazing, it got a nickname.
Pretty much. Whatever sounded cool and fitting at the time.
Which perfectly sets up this slang flip you mentioned. The moment the name diesel really took over from Chem, this is what, 93 to 95 in NYC?
Yeah, exactly. And this
Yeah.
is just pure street-level thinking. JJ's crew, they're important group here, they start calling Chem 91 diesel.
Why diesel, though?
Because Chem, especially in the early 90s New York scene, it just sounded too much like, well, chemicals.
Ah, right, like hard drugs or something synthetic. Not the vibe for premium flour.
Exactly the opposite vibe. But diesel, that was already slang in the city for anything powerful, high-end, top quality. Like, yo, that's diesel.
So it wasn't even about the smell initially. It was just a general term for the good stuff.
It started that way, yeah. A compliment for quality.
And then it just kind of morphed into the name for Chem 91 and the stuff coming from it.
Precisely. They took the adjective and made it the noun. Just like that. A spontaneous rebranding based on how people actually talked.
And that's why we call the whole family Diesel now, not Chem. Amazing.
That slang swap changed genetic history, basically.
Okay, so we've got the original diesel, the Chem 91 Foundation. The name is sticking. Now we get to the actual birth of sour diesel. And this is where it gets really interesting because, you assume these things are planned breeding projects. But the sources suggest maybe not so much.
Not at all. That's the big aha moment in the notes. Sour diesel looks like it came out of basically genetic chaos and accidental pollination. Maybe more than one. And the notes lay out two competing stories about which accident resulted in that magic seed, the one that gave us the keeper clone.
Okay, walk us through the first one, the JJ version, the series of mistakes claim.
Right, JJ's story is, well, it's a bit wild. It suggests that someone grew out a bagseed from Chem 91.
A bagseed, so just a random seed found in a bag of finished bud.
Exactly. Completely accidental, often caused by plant stress or a stray bit of pollen nobody noticed.
Okay.
So this Chem 91 bagseed plant grows up. The thinking is it was probably pollinated, accidentally again, by that Massachusetts Super Skunk Weasel had around.
Okay, so that's accident number one, creating the mother plant.
Right. But then that plant, the Chem 91X MSS hybrid, supposedly got hit again by accidental pollen, this time from a totally different plant called RFK skunk.
Wait, hold on. So 2 layers of accidental pollination. Chem 91 gets hit by MSS pollen by mistake. Someone grows that seed, then that plant gets hit by RFK skunk pollen by mistake.
That's the claim. A grandchild of Chem 91 born from 2 separate accidents involving 3 distinct strains.
Wow. That is incredibly messy, genetically speaking.
Highly complex. Maybe improbable, some would say. But that's one story.
So what's the other version? How does Weasel circle fit into the specific sour part?
The second story, which comes more from the original diesel side, also points to a seeded Chem 91 event as the origin of sour diesel. They acknowledge that happened. But Weasel himself didn't claim he, created the final keeper cut that became the famous East Coast sour diesel, the ECSD.
Okay, so he was part of the foundation, the original diesel, but the specific sour mutation that popped up later, maybe somewhere else in that network.
It seems like it. It likely emerged from someone growing Chem 91 near some other males, leading to that lucky pollination event. Weasel acknowledged the seeded event happened, but didn't claim the specific ECSD keeper as his final product.
So, okay, 2 different how it happened stories for the sour part. But the absolute constant, the thing everyone agrees on, is that the starting point was Chem 91.
Absolutely. That was the prize.
And people were calling that prize Diesel, Headband, Day Wrecker, kind of interchangeably for a while.
Exactly. Those were all basically street names for killer quality Chem 91 back then.
So the sour diesel was really just this incredibly lucky, super potent mutation that came out of that Chem 91 frenzy.
You got it. The luckiest accident from the most sought-after genetic.
Okay, fast forward a bit. You've got this amazing accidental genetic. How does it go from being this, local NYC Staten Island thing to just dominating the entire East Coast? Magic beans don't spread themselves.
Right. You need infrastructure, and that's where the Albany crew comes in. The 518 engine, they called it. Mid-90s.
518 engine. Love that.
They were the distribution network. Seriously organized. They connected NYC with upstate New York, Syracuse, Rochester, those places. And crucially, they pushed north into Vermont, hitting all the college towns. That network was the backbone.
So without them, diesel might have just stayed a New York thing.
Could have easily happened. They turned a local legend into an East Coast phenomenon. They professionalized it.
And with that professional distribution, certain specific clones, the keepers, could really rise to fame and get known. The notes talk a lot about AJ, starting around 95.
AJ is absolutely central to the fame part of the story. He initially got his hands on what was called a #2 cut, probably through that Albany network.
Okay, and number 2, not the main one yet.
Not the one. His big moment came later when he got the definitive #1 cut. Sources say it came via someone named Vondo. And that number 1 cut, that became AJ's sour, forever linked to his name.
What made AJ's sour the one?
It was apparently the flashiest, faster flowering, maybe a slightly different profile that just hit the market right. It became the commercial standard, the one everyone wanted.
But it wasn't the only keeper out there, right?
Yeah.
The notes mention this rivalry with another cut, the ECSD, sometimes called the Chaco cut. Growers seem to prefer that one.
Yeah, this is deep lore territory. The Chaco cut, or what many growers consider the true ECSD, was seen as different from AJ's.
How so?
It was described as slower, took longer to flower, but the payoff was supposedly a tartar, more complex, kind of classic fuel smell and taste. More nuanced, maybe.
Interesting.
So yeah, in those serious grower circles, if you talked about the real deal ECSD, often you meant the Chaco cut, even while AJ's cut was dominating the sales.
So AJ's was the commercial star, Chaco's was the connoisseur's choice, more underground.
Pretty much sums it up.
Now, with these super valuable genetics only existing as clones, somebody must have tried to make seeds from them, right? To stabilize it. Res Dog.
Yep. Res Dog from Reservoir Seeds. He took on the challenge of trying to turn the ECSD clone into an IBL.
An IBL.
Inbred line. Basically, you keep breeding it back to itself generation after generation, trying to lock in the trait so it consistently produces similar plants from seed. You're trying to minimize variation, those different phenotypes.
That sounds like a huge task, especially given how chaotic the origins were.
Oh, it was incredibly ambitious.
Yeah.
And really controversial, too.
How so?
Well, it was marketed hard, like the perfect representation of sour D in seed. And lots of people did find amazing plants, really dank phenotypes from those seeds. But there were also widespread complaints about herm issues, plants showing both male and female flowers, which is a big problem for growers.
instability.
Right. And endless debates online and elsewhere about whether the lineage Rez claimed was even accurate. It just shows how hard it is to capture lightning in a bottle, especially with a clone-only legend.
Definitely. So moving into the 2000s, sour diesel isn't just a strain anymore. It's like a status symbol. It becomes the East Coast flavor.
Totally. It was the undisputed East Coast calling card. The quality, the hype, it drove prices sky high. We see notes mentioning $500 for an ounce.
$500 an ounce. Back then.
Astronomical. Pure supply and demand for something perceived as exclusive and powerful. And more than just price, its success gave the East Coast serious bragging rights against California's OG Kush wave that was happening.
So it cemented a whole regional identity around this one strain.
Absolutely. East Coast could stand tall, powered by diesel.
And naturally, that level of success and identity means it starts bleeding into pop culture. It leaves the grow room and hits the mainstream.
Undeniably, its cultural footprint is huge and it lasts for years. The name Sour Diesel just becomes shorthand in music. You've got Zayn naming a song after it in 2018. Way before that, Dame Grease in 2007, Kenny Dream in '08, and again in 2019, all using the name in titles.
And not just titles, right? It gets woven into lyrics, too, as like a reference point.
Exactly. It shows up in verses.
Yeah.
AAP Mob mentioning it in Trilla, Flatbush Zombies in Face Off. It becomes a cultural touchstone.
Even TV.
Yeah. It got a shout out in Broad City Season 3, I think. When something makes it into sitcoms, you know it's broken through. It's not niche anymore.
It's just part of the landscape. What a journey. So wrapping this up for everyone listening, the real story of sour diesel, it's not some neat family tree. Not at all. It's more like a series of, well, lucky accidents, a really key slang swap in New York City where a compliment basically became the brand name, and then these rivalries between different growers and their favorite versions, their keeper cuts, all that chaos somehow created this absolute legend that defined an era.
Exactly. And that, I think, leads to the big takeaway here. Think about all those early names for Chem 91 Diesel, Headband, Daywrecker, just tossed around. And then the later confusion and arguments over AJ Sour versus the ECSD, the Chaco cut. What does that really tell you? It tells you about the sheer power of local culture, of street slang, to shape how the entire world sees a product. The name, the hype, the identity. It can be completely driven by how people on the ground talk about it, almost regardless of the breeder's original plan or the actual botanical details. Local language literally created a global icon.